Kia ora tātou, ko toko ingoa, Anne-Marie Tawhiu. I am beaming into you on this beautiful Tuesday evening from Gadigal country. I acknowledge all elders past and present, and I also want to acknowledge all First Nations people who are tuned in tonight. This land always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Thank you for taking the time out to tune in. This showcase is a part of Red Room Poetry's Poetry Month, and it's also a celebration of Phantom Bill Sticker's National Poetry Day happening this Friday, the 26th of August. It'll actually be their 25th year. Congratulations, Phantom Bill Stickers. Amazing. First up, you're going to be hearing from a pairing of poets who are from Aotearoa. Nicole Titihuia Hawkins was the winner of the Crystal Arts Trust Best First Book of Poetry at the 2022 Ockham Book Awards with her collection titled Whai. It was published by We Are Babies. Check out their publishers, they're really great. Nicole is a writer, a kayako, a teacher, a home baker, a red lipstick enthusiast, and doesn't she wear it well? She is an aunt and a proud new mama. She lives in Tawakairangi. She hosts Poetry with Brownies and also happens to run side hustles with her besties. The Kaupapa Māori t-shirt initiative, Mawkins & Co. is one that I'd strongly encourage you to check out. A la Mawkins & Co. Following Nicole, you'll be hearing from Seri Barfoot. Seri is the finalist of the Mary and Peter Biggs Award for Poetry at the 2022 Ockham New Zealand Poetry Awards. The Ockhams are the country's premier literary awards for New Zealand authors. So Seri was born in Aotearoa to a German Samoan mother and a Palagi father. Seri was the recipient of a 2018 Pacifica residency at the Michael King Writers Centre and also attended the 2019 Arsenal Book Festival in Kiev for the launch of the Ukrainian version of Tapatalk. Sleeping with Stones was the collection that was shortlisted earlier this year at the Ockham Book Awards. So for now, to start us off, let's hear from Nicole and Seri.
Kia ora, ko Nicole Titihuia Hawkins ahau, no Ngāti Pahauera, Ngāti Kahungunu ki te Wairoa. Today I'm reading to you from Te Atiawa Whenua, my poem Rainbow Pew Pew. I don't know enough about the tipuna I am named after, but when I read she was a weaver, I feel her stitching tāniko into the bodice of my insides. She says it doesn't hurt that much. When I breathe in, hundreds of tiny holes expand, but her pattern holds its place, like the ocean holds the stars that got us here. I don't know anything about kākahu, but when I hear she made cloaks from juicy kiriru, I can feel her weaving muka into my shoulder blades. She says to hold still. When I breathe out, they move in rhythm, rows on rows of feathers align, like the tides with the winds that carried us here. I've never heard of a rainbow pew pew, but when I'm told she made one, I can feel her binding the cords around my soft waist. She says she had 10 babies by my age. When I swirl my hips, the pew pew dances. Each dyed band melts into another colour, like her blood into the salt that brought us here.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Seri Barfoot, toko ingoa. I'd like to acknowledge the mana whenua of our local iwi, Te Kawarau a Maki. I live in West Auckland, Tamaki Makaurau, Aotearoa. I'd like to share a poem from my collection. It's based on a moimoia, on a dream that was given to me by my grandmother. I lived with my grandmother for decades, or she lived with us in 3 and 4 generation households, and she was an important part of my life. When she died, she kept in touch. She sends a kōtari, a kingfisher, to any of us who are in need. After my partner died, I was just overcome with grief, and she sent me this dream in which I was presented with the 4 chambers of my heart, and she showed me how to look after each chamber to bring me back into balance. And so this poem is based on that. Suka is sugar, and po'uli'uli is the Samoan word for the darkness, for the dark night. Into the world of light. I resolutely lanced my heart, a swollen fist about to burst, with a sharp tooth plucked from a dream. Poured honey into the first chamber, soothed, gnawed memories, sent them west with wild bees. Insulated the second chamber with foliage, kawa hearts blanketed loss, tempered feelings of abandonment. Painted the third chamber gold, ground turmeric mixed with coconut oil, loosened inflammation's angry grip. Poulticed the fourth chamber with suka, toxins drawn into a sweet citadel, dissolved into spontaneous sun showers. Bandaged myself with banana leaves, waded into the ocean. The shark tooth pulsed, warned off predators, suspended beyond the measure of clocks, floating, until my grandmother's kingfisher brought me ashore, embraced by po'uli'uli, my ruptured casement of grief, flew into the world of light. Whawhitai tele lava, kia ora.
Next, we'll be hearing from Daniel Browning and Sasheen Parkin Owens. Daniel Browning is an experienced and highly respected First Nations journalist, radio broadcaster, writer, and sound artist. Currently, he presents The Art Show on Radio National and is the editor of Indigenous Radio with the ABC, where he began his career in 1994. He's a visual arts graduate. Daniel is a widely published freelance writer on arts and culture, with a particular focus on Australian Indigenous art. He is the inaugural curator of Black Box, an award-winning architect-designed sound pavilion commissioned by Western Sydney-based multiform arts company UTP. The aim of it is to amplify the voices of First Nations artists and communities through live recorded storytelling. Daniel is a descendant of the Bundjalung and Kululi people of far northern New South Wales and southern Western Queensland. Following Daniel will be Sasheen Parkin Owens. Sasheen is an artist whose intellect and creativity reaches new levels, with his name being a title given to the Native American chief from the Mohegan tribe in the northeast of the USA. It was prophetic that frontline First Nation African American leader Sasheen would become a talented writer and orator. The rapper, singer, and spoken word poet has combined his greatest works into his debut EP, Part of the Picture, which was released on the 20th of May this year. Having opened at the 2022 Queensland Music Awards, as well as the AFL Indigenous Round, fans who see Sasheen live can expect to be enamoured by a young First Nations man, which manifests in a theatrical and emotive performance. Sashim also won the 2017 Oodgeroo Noonuccal Prize through Queensland Poetry Festival, the 2020 Brisbane City Council Best Original Song Award, and he was nominated for a 2022 QMA Award. Please enjoy Daniel and Sashim.
My name is Daniel Browning, and I'm coming to you today from Arakwal Country on the far north coast of New South Wales, around Byron Bay. And this is a poem called Phalanx, Woman's Work, and it's dedicated to all the women who made me, in particular 3 great-great-grandmothers, 3 very revered ancestors. They talk of black matriarchy. I feel it every day. The only black matriarchs I know would refuse that title with an explosive cackle. It speaks nothing of the daily sacrifice, of the undying capacity for love, the smoothed creases, the made bed, tight as a drum, and the pathological worries, however they wrapped it. Nunam means sister. She's the head of the phalanx of black women who made everything. And what they didn't manufacture with their own vascular hands, they could fix. No man needed. They disappear anyway. Grandma could reel in 4 and 5 at a time, perched on the seawall on the Tweed River. Every day except for Sunday. Black brim was her specialty, enough to feed a black army. They'd hear her speaking lingo from the next room, but never invited in. Do you know what it is to live with fear as constant as breathing? Nunam feared God. It gave rhythm and melody to her life. She couldn't read or write, but knew the good book, verse and chapter. A pillar of the church, she held everything up, even the broken notes as she strained to sing. Granny Hannah didn't have a tribal name, no totem either. We think of paucity, what they didn't pass on, when we owe them the air that we breathe. Granny grew up on Stradbroke, destined to be farmed out as domestic help. But you can't train an incandescent spirit, laced with steel, wrapped in an iron will. They say Granny birthed most of the Gouris round here. Well, they used to say that anyway. Any time, day or night, the call would come. She'd hitch up that horse and buggy, and soon she'd be flying. Out of Hannah's Hill, a sand dune near South Golden, faster than a king parrot. A chipped blue tea service, Auntie Marg Island remembered, the gift of her employer, a big pastoral station out west somewhere, a clay pipe, expert horsewoman, or am I misremembering? And her basket weaving, A chipped blue tea service, Auntie Marg Island remembered, the gift of her employer, a big pastoral station out west somewhere, a clay pipe, expert horsewoman, or am I misremembering? And her basket weaving. In blood quantum terms, Granny Allison was full. Her self-loathing country doesn't know itself, always flattening the past, to raise shining hollow monuments to the present that will be obsolescent in a decade. Like Pop, Granny didn't like to have her photograph taken. No one could steal her light like her thumbprints. But if I could just see her, I could well imagine what really fires the synapses in my brain. The sheer, undiluted power of a black woman standing alone, only moved by the restless jarjum churning in her belly. A woman's work is done.
Concrete is where love has blossomed. The soil beneath my leaves were clearly devoid of life, full of misconception and misconnection, full of self-reflections and misapprehensions. You could see the incisions left from the last woodchuck. You asked me, how much wood could a woodchuck wood if a woodchuck could chuck wood? And I said, a fucking lot. Where there were incisions, you pressed your gold-tinted skin and covered them up with your cocoa butter kisses. Where there was dead soil, you put your soul within and gave it life. Where there were weak limbs, you mothered a harness made of comfort and understanding. Your love for me is visibly more desirable than money that grows off trees. When spring comes, you never pick my flowers or leaves. You continue to water and shine your rays upon my rough, rugged bark and uncommonly fine beauty. But when that gush of wind decides to strip my branches, no matter how hard the circumstances, you're there, raking away the damage from the rain, pretending your happiness when you're clearly in pain. A couple days pass, the foundation has set for our stepping stones. It was hard, harder than solidifying the foundation of trust. I know it's a must, but trust is so hard, which is why the foundation for our stepping stones are made of concrete. And although it's made of concrete, encompassing my trunk, right around the bottom, you found the cracks in the concrete and proved that no matter the foundation, concrete is where love has blossomed.
Now let's get back in our waka and cross back over to the shores of Aotearoa, where we're going to hear from Joanna Preston and Tei Tibble. Joanna Preston is a Tasmanaut poet, editor, and ring mistress of the poetry class. She lives with her husband and a flock of much indulged chooks in semi-rural Canterbury and blogs occasionally at A Dark Feathered Art. Her second collection, titled Tumble, published by Otago University Press in 2021, won the Mary and Peter Biggs Awards at the 2022 Ockham New Zealand Book Awards. Massive congratulations to you, Joanna. Following Joanna is Tei Tibble. Tei lives in Wellington, and in 2017 she completed a Master's in Creative Writing from the International Institute of Modern Letters at Victoria University, where she was also the recipient of the Adam Foundation Prize. Her first book, which is remarkable, you have to buy it, called Pocahontas, won the Jessie Mackay Best First Book of Poetry Award. Her second collection, Rangikura, is published in 2021 by Victoria University Press. This year, Tay was a finalist of the Mary and Peter Biggs Awards for the poetry at the 2022 Ockhams. Please enjoy listening to Joanna and Tay.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Joanna Preston taku ingoa. Ka mihi o ki te mana whenua ki a Ngāti Moki. Hello, I'm Joanna Preston speaking to you from a very grey wintry day in Southbridge, in the beautiful South Island of Aotearoa, New Zealand. But I was born and I grew up in Australia, and my family's roots are in Biripai country on the mid-north coast of New South Wales. I acknowledge the traditional owners of these lands and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. Portrait of Great Aunt Lavinia as a bathysphere. So reinforced, her waist, the bounty of her chest, her coral reef of painted hair, you'd swear she'd walk away unharmed from being struck by lightning, by a trolley car, by sudden fancy to walk down to the quay and keep on walking, past the shops, shuttered now and sleeping, past the window where they sell the ferry tickets, past the nikau holding up and out their palms in supplication or meditation, past the bollards counting off the waves along the pier, and on and off the end into the water. And now she finds that water is her element. Bubbles are a shoal of fish that shimmer round her, and she is open-mouthed with love. She sinks deeper, her skirts a plume of jellyfish, her shoes a pair of cuttlefish unlacing and retreating in a puff of coloured ink. Her hair uncoils slowly from its braids, trailing languorous above her, like her fingers, a farewell to the air-soaked world above. And I know that she crossed gladly into the boundless kingdom of the ocean, leaving nothing but her name, a story touched with brine.
Kia ora e hoama, ko Te Tabu Tuku Ingoa, and I'm going to read a poem called Little Mermaids from my second collection, Rangikura. Little Mermaids. Rinsing the sea salts out of our bikinis with the drinking water, and getting a slap upside the head from your mother, with her home and garden magazine reserved especially for fanning away mosquitoes and sighing because we know that this is how it's always going to be. Because this is how it's always been. Because for 13 years it seemed that life was nothing but a succession of hot summers, and we were sure that we were Tangaroa's daughters with the way that we adapted to each turn in the river. And I remember the year that we were the 2 strongest girl swimmers in our syndicate, and this meant we were forever forced to race the boys for Western feminism, and you would always win. Even against the boys who were so like men that the teachers tended to treat them as if they were more muscle than human. And in the damp hearts of afternoons, we would watch them running laps and ripping Papatūānuku up with their cleats, their teeth clenched around orange slices of rubber in the reo. Well, I felt sorry for them slapping kia mate ururoa, ki mate wheke into their chests. Maybe they wanted to be dolphins instead, but that was our job, to dive dumb into the skin of the sea and throw our heads full of good hair skywards, saluting the sun, making scenes of ourselves when we should have been slinging pippies into your mother's kete, reserved especially for stealing kaimoana. But I'm a vegetarian and I didn't want to have anything to do with prying kina loose from the rocks to offer up to the bros like pussy, them slurping and spitting while we flinch, oi don't, and they just cheer each other on like a pack of crackling gods. And I can't remember where we were, but I can guess that we were probably doing what we were always doing during those summers that sweltered with the swagger, standing on the sand, picking out which surfers we wanted, or tanning on our backs in the soft parts of the riverbank. But somewhere between the boys and the wet centre of the earth, I said, hey, have you ever noticed the way Boys tend to witty when they're angry, the way their eyes roll back and their lips pull tight. That's adrenaline, you say, taking a thirsty glug of water. You want to bottle it, you say, 100% New Zealand pure. Ngā mihi, thank you very much for having me.
Next, we'll be hearing from Bibi Backhouse and Jazz Money. Bibi Backhouse hails from the Kimberley region in northern Western Australia and is a Badi Jawi creator who's called Naarm in Melbourne home for 10 years, beginning his creative practice as a classical pianist and composer. Bibi was awarded a West Australian Youth Award at 21 for his work as a music teacher to young Indigenous people. He later made a name for himself as a creative producer and director of youth festivals, theatre and public art projects across Australia, including international dance and theatre projects in New Zealand, France and Belgium. While holding senior positions at public arts organisations in Melbourne, Bibi successfully fostered many artistic opportunities for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander creatives to showcase their work in mainstream platforms, allowing traditional culture to thrive in the public realm. Bibi's first collection of poetry, titled More Than These Bones, which will be published through Magabala, is to be released in 2023. Keep your eyes peeled. Following Bibi will be Jazz. Jazz Money is a Wiradjuri poet and artist currently based on Gadigal lands. Her practice is centred around the written word while producing works that encompass installation, digital, film and print. Jazz's writing has been widely performed and published nationally and internationally. Their David Unayapan award-winning debut collection, How to Make a Basket, was released in 2021 by the University of Queensland Press. Go by How to Weave a Basket. Okay, let's hear from Bibi and Jazz.
Hello, my name is Bibi Backhouse. I am Badi Jawi and I live here on Wurundjeri country in Naarm, Melbourne. This is a poem called The Light That Bleeds, written for Poetry Month. Take me outside to the place we both knew so well, when I'd hold your hand while walking barefoot, even though the soil was littered with bindies. But I preferred the earth to know who I was from the taste of my blood and the way it filled with grains of sand than to have to speak my name in a language it could never understand with a voice I was still discovering. Take me to the mountain we would go to sit and watch the stars fall past the edge of the earth like they were always destined to do. Let me think of the people I used to know when I was small and remember the things I forgot about them, the pieces of gold that captured my heart into loving them, and the ways they hurt me, that saw me quickly let them go. Take me to the ocean where my heart once drowned, as people in barely their swimsuits watched me stand in waves that broke on the shoreline. As my bones shattered beneath the forceful hands of the sun, and all its reasons for keeping the world alive in a chorus of separate songs. Let me dance in the sand one more time, while you take photographs of the footprints I leave behind, so I can remember their rhythm long after I've left them. Take me to the tree outside the home where I grew up, and I'll carve my name into its bark beside the one I made at 9 years old. I'll climb its branches and stretch my arms out so I'm taller than the leaves and higher than the light that bleeds over them. And I'll feel the greatness of everything you've given me, the power of all I am. And I'll know this to be a journey of infinite steps that encase golden prayers in the face of a western wind, trusting I'll be going home and knowing I'll never be coming back.
Hello, my name is Jazz Money, and for Red Room's Poetry Month, I'm going to be reading a poem called So to the Sunrise. So to the sunrise, with clarity and promise of who you will rise to be. So to the breaking night, who knows dance and feast and then resting. So to the moon, who sees all those standing on the edge of journey, the moth lifting to light, the glistening nectar of now, the current drifting on. So to us hands held, ready to take the first step into glory, glowing dawn. Thank you.
Next up, we'll hear from Anne Kennedy, one of the finalists of the Ockham Awards this year. Anne Kennedy is a poet, a fiction writer, a screenplay editor, and a teacher. Recent books are The Sea Walks into a Wall and The Ice Shelf. Awards and fellowships include the Montana Book Awards for Poetry, the University of Iowa International Writers Program, and the 2021 Prime Minister's Award for Poetry. Anne has taught creative writing at the University of Hawaii and Manukau Institute of Technology. Let's hear from Anne Kennedy.
Kia ora koutou, Anne Kennedy here in Tamaki Makaurau, Aotearoa. I'm on the Indigenous land belonging to Ngāti Whātua, and I pay my respects to the guardians of that land, past and present. Thanks to Annie Tafu for including me in the Red Room Poetry Month celebrations. It's lovely to be here. I'm going to read from my book, The Sea Walks into a Wall. I tend to write long narrative poems, so I'm just going to read a chunk of a poem. The title of the poem is Light On in the Garden, and the first section is called Dread. The guys on the exec team hate art. They watch a movie sometimes, hum along to a tune in the car, buy jewellery for their wives, but the guys on the Polytech executive team really hate art. Sure, they visit the Met when, in New York, used to moon dance in their 20s, and they all wear clothes. But sadly, the members of the Polytech Executive Committee hate art. The problem is, and it's a very big problem, there is an art school at the fucking Polytech. The art school is in an old chip factory. It is loud, fun and shocking, and history and memory, tragedy and beauty, argument and experiment, grief and comedy, and the new stream out in form and colour, sound and movement, writing and speaking. Firstly into the garden of tire sculptures sprouting with thought and work and performance. Then into the local community, the parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, who already love art, who live art in their houses, churches, halls, walls, streets, shopping centres. Then beyond into the city. And the students of the art school think and wrangle and shape and say. And the graduates go into the world making and teaching and wrestling and theorising about art. The 7 members of the Polytech Executive Committee, with their various chief executive, academic, provost, professor, business partner, headdressers, hear about the goings-on at the art school, the entertainment, reflection, representation, and they are filled with dread. They are careful never to stray near the old chip factory, especially after dark. Thank you.
Wrapping up this incredible showcase, Ryan Clapham and Marlon Williams. Starting with Ryan. Ryan Clapham is a composer, a rapper, a drummer who performs under the pseudonym Dobby. Age 28, Ryan proudly identifies as a Filipino and Aboriginal musician whose family is from Murawari and Nengba lands. Ryan has completed a Bachelor of Music at the University of New South Wales and an Indigenous Studies Honours, focusing on Aboriginal hip-hop music. Ryan is the 2017 recipient for the biennial Peter Sculthorpe Fellowship and is set to release Warungu River Story as the outcome of this fellowship. He composed the soundscapes for Patanjama, Alice Springs, and composed the music behind Australia's first 500-strong drones show at Elevate Sydney. As Dobby, Ryan has performed extensively locally, including Big Sound, the Sydney Opera House, as well as internationally at Germany, UK, and the USA. Dobby has taken out the best video for I Can't Breathe, incredible song, in the 2020 FBI SMAC Awards. And recently, Ryan performed a new self-produced work alongside rapper Barker for the New Year's Eve fireworks. Hot tip, make sure you check out I Can't Breathe by Dobby and Barker. And really excitingly, most recently, Ryan received the renowned Archie Roach Foundation Award. Massive congratulations, Ryan. And as I said, following on from Ryan will be Marlon Williams. Look, what I did was I just gave Miles a call. I said, Marlon, you like poetry. We know you do. Would you mind reading something for us? And he said, yeah, sure, Annie. I'll just pop something through to you. So wrapping up the showcase will be the incredible Marlon Williams. Thank you for spending your time with us. This Australian-New Zealand showcase has been an absolute honour and pleasure to bring you. I hope you have discovered some new poets and, most importantly, go and buy their work. Go and engage with their work. Happy New Zealand Poetry Day this Friday for all the New Zealanders watching. For everyone here in so-called Australia, please keep engaging with Poetry Month. Don't forget to check out redroompoetry.org. Heaps and heaps of great stuff still happening throughout every day of August. Happy Poetry Month, everyone, from Little Panda and I. Have a beautiful night. Thanks for watching. Take good care. Ka kite.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Ryan Clapham. I go by the rap name Dobby. I'm Filipino on my mother's side and Murori on my father's side. And very grateful to be a part of Red Room Poetry's series of poems, to be working with Nils Slim Craze. It's been amazing to work with this amazing, talented poet across the other side of the world. So this is my poem, contributing to our collaboration. Generations of trauma trickling through the leak. 80,000 years of fighting every week. Now's the final hour. The world awaits your change. Yet you grip tightly the chains and flick right through our pain. But I am here and so are they. My old people, they see you. They wouldn't dare return in flesh if it meant they had to be you. So we stand strong and lift the voice of one another's soul and breathe in our country air to bring us back to whole. First Nations united from here to Brother Nils. My love comes from a learning of what was and always will. I am we, and we are they, and they are here to stay. Those before will speak of law forever in your way. Thank you so much, everyone.
Kia ora, I'm Marlon Williams. Want to give a shout out to all the winners and all the finalists at the Marianne Peter Biggs Award for Poetry at the 2022 Ockham New Zealand Book Awards. I'm going to read you a poem by one of my favourite poets. Her name's Robin Hyde. She said he passed away very young, but wrote beautiful poems. This one's called Silence. I'm tired of all voices. Friends and fool have come too nearly with me to the shrine that is the secret kept by wind and pine. Now, when the shadowy hands of dusk are cool about my eyes, shall silence like a god drive them with whips of starlight from his stairs. Only the small grass driving in its clod, only the stream that fragile moonlight bears like blossoms on its breast, move in this place. All earth lies still as some beloved face, whose dreaming mouth and deep curved eyelids make bridges to God that lightest sound would break. Towers where one would seem iconoclast. Yet, if through darkening trees you came at last, wearing the dew of meadows on your shoon, and in your eyes the blessing of the moon, I think it would be well. I think our greeting would be as quiet as two rivers meeting, which, drawn together, sparkling up in foam, slide into one bright second, and our home should be the furthest longing of pale seas, beyond the purple caverns of the trees.